Here we go. So once again, welcome everyone for joining us tonight. I am Julie Wake, the Executive Director of the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod. The Arts Foundation has been around since 1988, and our mission is to support, promote, and celebrate arts and culture on Cape Cod. And we are excited for the third lecture of a four-part series called Modern Love, Conversations on Art and Architecture. The goal of the series is to listen, to look, to discuss, and repeat. We want you to walk away learning something new or with a new perspective or maybe a new appreciation. I'd like to thank our Stand with the Arts sponsor, William Ravis Real Estate, for making this lecture series possible. I'd also like to thank all of our business patrons who continue to support our work during very challenging times. Many of you might be new to the Arts Foundation. I would encourage you to learn more about us at artsfoundation.org. And now I would like to introduce our speaker tonight, Lisa Tung, the Executive and Artistic Director of the MassArt Art Museum, otherwise called the MAAM, and she'll tell us more about the name, the Contemporary Art Museum at Massachusetts College of Art and Design in Boston, the nation's first independent public art college. Lisa spearheaded the planning of this new free museum that opened on February 22nd of 2020. So keep that date in mind. Known for her curatorial vision, Lisa and her exhibitions have received numerous awards, including Boston Magazine's Best of Boston, Best Curator, and have appeared in regional and national media outlets such as Art News, Art Forum, the Boston Globe, and WGBH. A vital member of the Greater Boston arts community, Lisa is a commissioner on the Boston Art Commission, a founding board member of the nonprofit public art organization Now and There. And most recently, she served on the National Nominating Committee of the National Museum of Women in the Arts in Washington, D.C. Lisa holds a BA in art history from Northwestern University and an MA in feminist history, theory, and criticism from the University of Leeds in the UK. And I'd like to say, welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Julie. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I'll start my presentation. So I will start sharing my first computer screen. All right, so hopefully everyone sees a pink Imagine the Unimagined screen.
We do.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Well, as Julie said, my name is Lisa Tung, and I'm the Executive Artistic Director of the MassArt Art Museum, or as we like to say, MAAM. I oversee the museum and all of our exhibitions and programs that we produce. I started at MassArt 23 years ago, first as the curator, and then I became the director in 2008. MAAM has been a dream in the making for over a decade. Thank you for joining me today to learn about MassArt and its museum. Here's an outline of what I would like to go over in our next 15 minutes. Founded in 1873, MassArt was the first art school to grant a degree in the US and the first freestanding public college of art and design. MassArt has had an exhibition space since the mid-1980s. Our mission has always been to introduce international contemporary artists and their work to our students, faculty, and greater public. The galleries have always collaborated with our faculty to enrich the curriculum. MassArt has both fine art and design majors. We try to highlight something of interest to all students during the time that they're here. We do not have a permanent collection on purpose. That is so that we can stay on mission to only show work that is current and of our time. When I started as a director in 2008, the galleries had many shortcomings. The biggest were our facilities, which date back to 1906. The galleries featured exhibitions of the highest caliber, but in a subpar space with no climate, no humidity, or lighting controls. There was also no front door. We were doing great work, but we were this hidden gem, and only those in the know knew us, and the general public was unaware. MassArt moved to its current location at Longwood and Huntington in 1992. The building it moved into, the former Boston Normal and Girls Latin School, was built in 1906 and had a very different relationship to the street at the time. The park at Evans Way, a continuation of Boston's Emerald Necklace, connected all the way to Huntington Avenue, creating a classically symmetric approach to the campus, typical of turn-of-the-century architecture. And here you see a photograph of the former Boston Normal School, now known as MassArt's South Building, shown on the left. Inside the Normal School was a space that served many functions over the history of the building, including a lecture hall, shown in this photograph, and a library, before it was converted into a gallery space. This is our former Payne Gallery. We're located in the Fenway Cultural District, a vibrant section of the city with institutions that attract visitors and artists from around the world. You see us in the bottom left corner there. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, seen here in the middle left, and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, seen at the top right, are our neighbors. One of the core goals of the museum's design was to create a visible entrance in order to achieve prominence along Huntington Avenue, otherwise known as Boston's Avenue of the Arts. The former entrance to the galleries, here highlighted in that pink square, was tucked into a side entrance to the South Building and required our visitors to navigate down a hallway and around a corner before even entering the galleries. As you can imagine, many visitors got lost. To create a new front door, as well as completely overhaul and transform our space, we worked with Boston-based Design Lab architects. Design Lab replaced the two historic windows facing Huntington Avenue with new backlit panels and expanded one of the first floor windows into a new entrance that would be visible and accessible directly from Huntington Avenue. The architects also created new climate-controlled spaces in both galleries, which required stripping them down to the original structure. In the lower level Bacalar Gallery, a box within a box was created to prevent the added humidity from compromising the historic masonry. The biggest transformation was probably to the upstairs gallery, the former lecture hall and library. We tore off the ceiling, exposing the original terracotta vaulting, and discovered the steel structural trusses. We created a new third floor museum office in the back where you see the plastic covered windows, and I'll show you a picture later. The resulting renovations included creating a new museum facade with a dedicated front door and a welcome plaza. The plaza also affords key views into and out of the new education studio, visible to the right of the museum's entrance. Education studio is a major addition to the museum. Its location, directly adjacent to the main entry, represents the importance of education, both for the museum and its parent institution, MassArt. Upon entering, our new lobby connects you to the first floor Bacalar Gallery. And here's another view. Here we're looking back towards the lobby from inside the Bacalar Gallery. The Bacalar Gallery now has complete temperature and humidity control, allowing the museum to showcase extremely fragile or sensitive works. This is our education studio, where we host educational programs for Boston area schools for students aged 9 to 18 years old. We also built a new back of the house preparatory studio and storage spaces. Here you see our workshop. We do a lot of our own fabrication of temporary walls and pedestals in-house. The Payne Gallery remains the hallmark space of the museum, with the historic Palladian windows and 20-foot tall walls and new exposed ceiling trusses. The stairs connect you to a unique art viewing catwalk to give visitors another perspective of the artwork on view. The new visible museum offices looks out over the gallery space below and allows visitors to find us easily. Here's another view of our museum offices. Our neighbors are our first year students, which is ideal because we want to try to introduce as many first year students to the museum as possible. To build the new museum brand and website, I fundraised for additional funds. we partnered with Tammy Dayton in Moth Design, a Boston-based studio that works with mission-driven institutions to help bring them their vision and voice to life. As construction was underway on the museum, we began to work on the brand. A brand is more than a logo. It's experiential and holistic. And for a place-based museum, it was critical that we consider the brand experience for locals and visitors. We wanted the brand to be very forward-facing. The MAAM logo mark are custom-drawn letter forms that are moving forward, reflecting one of MAAM's core values. The logo is sculptural and can be used as a vessel to hold various pieces of art or images, reflects the themes of being open and inclusive. Its modular quality is visually active and allows for the mark to feel like it's evolving. And since MAAM is part of an art and design school, it was particularly important for its brand to be sophisticated and design forward. We also wanted our website to feel exciting and fresh and be easy to navigate. We embraced color on the site and used exaggerated hover effects to inject an element of surprise and a dynamism to the visitor experience. It was important that the brand feel bespoke. One way we did this was to commission a custom display typeface called MAAM Sans that was drawn by MassArt alumnus Nick Sherman. We wanted the brand to break the mold of what we were seeing from other contemporary arts museum branding, which tend to employ a black and white palette and stark graphic motifs. We embraced color and unusual color pairings. The intention was both to differentiate the brand, but also to create a visual mood that's fun and welcoming and involves a broad audience, some of whom may be completely new to the world of contemporary art. Moth built a brand that would feel instantly recognizable with a high level of consistency across channels. They thought a lot about the journey that somebody might take to find MAAM. We wanted there to be graphic breadcrumbs that felt familiar on banners, on subway ads, exterior signage, when visiting the museum itself. As part of the rebrand, we considered how to stretch a limited marketing budget. Social media was central to this plan. We began promoting the museum on social media several months before we opened our doors, both to build buzz and to support the brand launch. The MAAM announcement post on Instagram was the most liked post in MassArt's history. MAAM's overall budget for construction was very tight. And as a way to work with this constraint, I asked Moth to create brand touchpoints throughout the museum, making the MAAM experience even more special. Moth designed MAAM wallpaper, environmental graphics and murals, and the giant exterior marquee sign. Elevator bays that you saw on the previous slide and our bathrooms were activated with graphics painted as murals or vinyl wallpaper. This was a cost-efficient way to elevate these spaces and provide moments of discoverability for the museum visitor. I was told later that these bathrooms are very Instagrammable, whatever that means. There's a mural in our seminar room that also expresses the ethos of our office, using both the prismatic frames and the hover as seen on our website. And the renovations also brought in, for the first time in South Building's history, an elevator. This elevator is shared between the college and the museum. So Moth designed wayfinding and graphics for the elevator's interior so students and museum visitors know which side to exit. We paid attention to every detail of branding opportunities in the space, right down to the named and code signage. It was important to us that the signage have a sculptural quality, and the graphic elements of the brand worked well to support this. This is another great example of how the bespoke MAAM Sans font supports and extends the brand. Here you see samples of the code signage, complete with custom iconography and examples of MAAM's support typographic palette in Stellar, which is all caps, and Beatrice, which is the font that says restrooms and elevator. Lastly, white lockers in the lobby were dressed up with colorful MAAM brand numbers. All of these touch points set the stage for a vibrant community experience. But MAAM is more than a building or a brand. We are, first and foremost, located on an academic campus, and we are a teaching museum. We educate our students and the public about contemporary art. We partner with our faculty to support the curriculum, and we prepare and train students and alumni for careers in the museum field. MAAM is the only free contemporary art museum in Boston. All of our exhibitions and programs are provided at no cost. We believe in making contemporary art accessible to everyone. We are a non-collecting museum, otherwise known as a Kunsthal, and we show temporary exhibitions year-round. An important part of our mission is educating the next generation of artists, designers, and art educators. We employ our students and recent graduates to provide professional hands-on training for a career in the arts. Our focus is to show exceptional work by professional artists from all backgrounds that reflect our areas of study. We've presented exhibitions focusing on architecture, photography, fashion design, glass, painting, ceramics, and more. And we don't have a large budget, but we are an art school with lots of knowledgeable faculty and hardworking students and great facilities. Oftentimes, we help artists create brand new large-scale work or work in new media that they haven't yet explored. We imagined our white box lobby to be a site where artists could realize their ideas for immersive environments. We also wanted our visitors to know that this is a contemporary art space the minute you walk through our front door. This is what you see if you were to visit MAAM today. We commissioned artist duo Ghost of a Dream to be the first to activate our new lobby. The artist cut up and collaged images using over 30 years of exhibition catalogs, announcements, newspaper clippings, posters, and ephemera. Our past is paving the way for our future. When visitors look closely, they see images of different exhibitions we presented over the decades. After being closed for almost 2 years for construction, I felt very strongly that when the museum reopened, that our first installation be almost unimaginable. You would have to see it to believe it. We wanted to demonstrate that to see spectacular art, you shouldn't have to buy a ticket. We chose Portuguese artist Joanna Vasconcelosch to be our first featured artist for the Pain Gallery. This is Valkyrie Mumbai, a monumental site-specific sculpture. This commission was created just for MAAM. It weighs more than 1 ton and is suspended entirely from the ceiling. I'm delighted to say that it exceeded my ambitions and imagination. It's truly breathtaking. To create an unforgettable experience, we needed partners. We are fortunate that the Portuguese consulate believed in our project and provided valuable assistance, mostly with transport of the artist, her 5-person installation team, and very importantly, the artwork. We also worked together to create a memorable private opening. Special guests were the Ambassador of Portugal, Domingos Fejes Vital, the Consulate General of Portugal, João Pedro Finch do Lago, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, and of course, our artist, Joanna Vasconcelosch. On Saturday, February 22, MAAM 2020, MAAM opened to the public with an all-day grand opening with lines around the block. We had speeches and a ribbon cutting with Boston City officials. Our artists attended, and there was art making for all. There was also live performances, guided tours of our new spaces, bilingual tours of the exhibitions, DJs, music, aerialists, and even more art making throughout the day. MAAM's opening was, of course, covered by the Greater Boston Press, but it was also news around the world. Here's a sampling of the international press that we received. MAAM strives to be a welcoming and vibrant community space, a space not only to see exhibitions, but also have fun, to express your creativity, and to try something new at no cost. MAAM wants to be a place where you can bring your family and a place where you can make new friends. And it's a place for connection and experiences. Sadly, after being open for 13 days, MAAM closed due to the pandemic. We immediately utilized our new website, maam.massart.edu, and created a virtual museum, MAAM from Home, to engage our community and public, which has now grown to include people tuning in from Switzerland and Germany. MAAM from Home features step-by-step art-making activities in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. There's also artist videos. There are coloring pages and Zoom backgrounds, and live art-making events led by MAAM educators and MassArt faculty on Thursday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays. Pre-pandemic, our Looking to Learn program focused on Boston area schools. Now our educational outreach is virtual and has expanded. With Looking to Learn online, our educators introduce 4th to 12th grade students across the state to the museum, to our exhibitions, and has activities centered around the themes of each show. Through our partnership with the Portuguese Consulate, we've been able to launch our first bilingual Looking to Learn program, aptly called Looking to Learn Online Portuguese. So far, we've met and introduced hundreds of Lusophone students in Massachusetts and Rhode Island to the Joanna Vasconcelosch Valkyrie Mumbai exhibition. Starting in May, we will branch out to Portuguese-speaking schools in Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, California, and our capital. I'm proud to say that Looking to Learn Online Portuguese has been enthusiastically received. And because we can't be together physically, I will now share with you, or try to share with you, a 5-minute introduction to the Joanna Vasconcelosch Valkyrie Mumbai exhibition, followed by a 3D tour. So I'm now going to stop sharing on computer screen number 1 and go to computer screen number 2. Welcome to the MassArt Art Museum, or as we like to say, MAAM, Boston's newest and only free contemporary art museum. Today I'm excited to share with you Joanna Vasconcelosch's Valkyrie Mumbai. For MAAM's opening in February 2020, we sought to premiere a new artist and artwork. We wanted our visitors to be amazed by the museum's physical transformation, so we commissioned work that would highlight MAAM's architecture. The biggest change was to our second floor gallery. We ripped off the ceiling, exposing the original 1906 terracotta vaulting and steel girders. We added hanging points so that we could now install a colossal work suspended from the ceiling. I wanted to collaborate with an artist whose work was awe-inspiring and would fill our space. Looking up at the gallery, I thought of Joanna Vasconcelosch. She creates beautiful, large-scale sculptures and site-specific installations. They explore culture, history, identity, and contemporary life, all with a feminist wink. Vasconcelosch has represented her country at the Venice Biennale. She was the first woman and youngest artist to be invited to exhibit at the Palace of Versailles, and she just concluded one of the most popular exhibitions at the Guggenheim Bilbao in Spain. Yet, she had never had a solo museum show in the United States until now. Vasconcelosch's latest body of work is called the Valkyries. They are monumental installations that pay tribute to trailblazing women in history. In Norse mythology, Valkyries are fierce goddesses. They're made of various fabric, handmade embellishment, fringe, and LED lights. After accepting our invitation to create a new Valkyrie for MAAM, the artist flew to Boston for a site visit. When she saw the museum's new construction, steel trusses, and art viewing balcony, she was thrilled to create a bespoke work that would engage our visitors from multiple vantage points. For MAAM's Valkyrie, the artist wanted to champion the achievements of a local historic woman. So she asked us for a list of notable Massachusetts women. Vasconcelosch chose to honor Elizabeth Mombet Freeman, someone whose accomplishments are not widely known outside our state. Known as Mombet, Elizabeth Mombet Freeman was an enslaved African-American woman who was the first to sue for her freedom in 1781, based on the newly adopted Massachusetts Constitution that declared all men are born free and equal. What many people do not know is that Massachusetts was the first colony to legalize slavery in 1641. And thanks to Freeman, Massachusetts was the first to outlaw slavery in 1783. We wanted to open MAAM with a breathtaking artwork, and we did just that. During the opening, there were many shared wow moments as we watched our visitors experience Valkyrie Mumbai for the very first time. The entire sculpture weighs almost 1 ton. The components were created in Vasconcelosch's studio in Lisbon and then were packed and shipped in 7 separate crates, each about the size of a twin bed. The parts were assembled in our gallery, inflated, and then suspended from the ceiling. Valkyrie Mumbai is the artist's most personal Valkyrie, as she directly references her country's role in the transatlantic slave trade. The sculpture is primarily made of capulana, a colorful cloth from Mozambique, a former Portuguese colony. Vasconcelosch used many capulana from her own personal collection. During the colonial era, European traders capitalized on triangular trade routes between Africa, Europe, and the New World, and eventually monopolized the textile market. Designers from Mozambique, where the artist's parents were raised, have since reclaimed capulanas and are revitalizing the textile industry. The cloths exemplify the fluidity of cultures and reflect a complicated and intertwined history of cultural exchanges across continents and centuries, as well as the legacy of European exploitation, colonization, and slaveholding. The artist also calls attention to Freeman's rare independence and wealth for that time by referencing the possessions Freeman listed in her will. This Valkyrie includes velvet, one of the textiles bequeathed to Freeman's descendants. The yellow pom-poms and metallic beads throughout symbolize her cherished gold bead necklace. A further connection to Massachusetts is the traditional Azorian lace, a nod to the large Lusophone population that resides here. With each visit, the viewer discovers something new. There are surprises from every angle. When we asked Joanna Vasconcelosch what she wanted visitors to take away from this brilliant work, she said, "Valkyrie Mumbai is a symbol of freedom. It is a symbol for women and how you can transform your own life by your acts." This work pays tribute to a courageous woman, Elizabeth Mombet Freeman, and celebrates the difference that one person can make. So that was the video, and now I'm going to move over to the 3D tour. All right. So hopefully everyone can see the lobby and possibly hear me. Yes?
Yes, Lisa, we
All
can
right.
hear you. I'm
Great.
wondering if anyone, I was just chatting up a storm because I forgot to unmute myself, as usual. Does anyone have any questions about what we just saw? I have to say that was like so beautifully done. So thank you for sharing that video. And how did you select that particular artist? Did you, because there's so many, and how?
So yes, basically we knew from, if you remember seeing the slides of the space, we knew that after being under construction for 2 years, we really wanted to open up the museum with something really spectacular. And so because we had never hung anything entirely from the ceiling before, I thought that would be a really good idea. So one of the things we started doing was researching, large scale installation artists, people who maybe are suspending a lot of work from the ceiling, and just doing research that way. And I had been following Joanna Vasconcelosch's work since I saw for the first time at one of the Venice Biennales back in the mid 2000s. But back then, she was not doing the Valkyrie series just yet. As you saw from the video, she didn't start making large scale Valkyries until 2012 with her Versailles exhibition. And so it's one of these things where when I go see a lot of work, I take a lot of notes, and now increasingly more so, I take pictures with my iPhone. And so I just go back through little notebooks over the years and pictures to see artists whose work I've really liked or enjoyed over the years, and then try to figure out if they might work, in the space that we're now thinking of. And so that's what happened with Joanna. She was someone whose work I'd seen in like 2005, 2007. Actually, it was the big tampon chandelier that you saw in the video. And then it wasn't until someone had visited Bilbao in 2018 and said, "I just got back seeing the best show ever." And I was like, "Oh, what did you see?" And they said there was this ginormous, thing that was from the ceiling. And she started describing it to me. And when I researched it, I realized that this had been the same artist that I had, seen back in the mid 2000s. And so that's how we decided to choose Joanna. That is one-sided. I wanted her, but I didn't know if she would want us. And so basically I asked her to consider being our inaugural artist. I showed her pictures and floor plans of what we were planning to build, and she was really, really excited, and she wanted to come. And so that's how we got her to come visit in August of 2019. And she then started furiously designing right away, and then probably built the piece in her studio with her assistants for 4.5 months before we shipped it over to the US.
It's just incredible. It's breathtaking. I can't wait to see it in person. We have a question about the textiles. I know she's from Portugal, but her studio is in Spain. So someone's wondering where the beautiful textiles are from.
So Joanna actually lives and works in Lisbon. So her studio is in Lisbon, and she is a very, very well-known and successful Portuguese artist. And she probably employs, I'd say, 50 or so people in her studio, from engineers to architects to artisans to people who knit and crochet to women who do, handicrafts. And she believes in supporting her community and giving back to her community. And she probably has, her own little, economy running right there. When we decided to work with her, she asked us, because she wanted to have some local input. She wanted to know who were some historic Massachusetts women that we thought made a difference. And so we did some research and we compiled a list. And the list was ranging from, philanthropist and collector Isabella Stewart Gardner to First Lady Abigail Adams, but also to maybe some women who are lesser known in history. Among them, Phyllis Wheatley, the first published African-American poet, as well as Elizabeth Mombet Freeman, who was an enslaved person. And after overhearing the Massachusetts Constitution being discussed, that all men are born free and equal, decided that that also applied to her. So she sued the Massachusetts government the first time ever with a freedom suit. Previously, slaves had taken their masters to court, maybe for excessive cruelty or maybe a breach of contract of some kind, but never for this right, this inalienable right to be free. And so when she won her case in 1781, that helped hasten the demise of slavery in Massachusetts. I did not grow up on the East Coast. I actually grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, and my history was taught that, the North had abolitionists and the South had slaves. And I didn't even know that Massachusetts had enslaved people. And it wasn't until we were doing this project, we realized that Massachusetts was the first colony to legalize slavery. And thanks to Elizabeth Mombet Freeman, also the first colony to make it illegal. But going back to the material, Portugal, as you know, was one of these countries back in the 1400s, 1400s, 1500s, that was very, very prosperous in its trade. It had a huge fleet. It went around and traded for spices and goods and cloths and also people. And so Joanna acknowledges that her country is a country that was part of the transatlantic slave trade and had colonies, and basically wanted to acknowledge this in the piece. And so thereby linking, our Massachusetts history and American history with Portuguese history. These cloths that you see throughout Valkyrie Mumbai are part of Joanna's collection. She has a huge fabric textile collection, and she also grew up, her parents were raised in Mozambique. And Mozambique, as many of you may know, was a former Portuguese colony. And so in Mozambique, there are many kinds of this kind of cloth, capulana, also known as African print cloth or Dutch wax cloth. And basically, they it's an evolution. What was there in Africa then was traded and bought and then moved over to either India or to Indonesia, and then over to the Netherlands, and then to Portugal. And so all of these cloths that were bought and traded then also morphed over time as different artisans, put their stamp on the cloth. So one of the things that we planned on doing, and we hope we still can do, is when the museum reopens, we had invited a Mozambican fashion designer by the name of Wasi Zacharias. And Wasi's whole mission now is to create capulanas for Africans that are by Africans. And she has a whole textile and fashion design industry that is based in Capulana. And basically, we were going to have Wasi come talk to our students and the public, as well as have her have a conversation with an anthropologist at MIT called M. Amaedo, who was going to then talk about the evolution of Capulana cloth. This is the first Valkyrie that Joanna has made with Capulanas. So we were very, very excited that this piece is here, that the history is reflected in this piece, and that it also is beautiful, but it also celebrates the life of this really amazing woman.
Thank you for that. That's fascinating. Just so fascinating. So now you're going to take us on a 3D tour of the MAAM.
Yes, so hopefully this will work. I noticed when watching the video earlier, there was a little bit of glitching, but hopefully this will be less so. So here, let's see. I think you see this. So here we are as if you've just walked in to the museum, and I'm going to see what happens if I press the button. Okay, it doesn't look like it's working. Here we go. And so here you are coming into our new lobby. And as I mentioned in the presentation, the lobby is also a space that we envision is a place for artists to activate and try out new ideas. And this is by an artist duo called Ghost of a Dream. And this piece is called Yesterday is Here. And so the lobby connects you both to the upstairs and downstairs gallery. And then over to our right, you see that it takes us also directly to the education studio. But for today, we're going to go upstairs.
And that's where the first year students.
Oh, the education studio is where our 25-year-old program called Looking to Learn takes place. And Looking to Learn started out as a collaboration between MassArt, the museum, well, back before it was a museum, the galleries, and the Boston Public School System and Boston area schools. It's a multi-visit program where we go to the schools and introduce the kids to contemporary art, artists, museums, etc. And then they're invited to come free of charge. We either buy tea passes for them or we rent a bus for them so that they come visit what they've learned about in the classroom here in the museum. But we've never ever had a dedicated space before. And for the first time ever, we will have this education studio, which will seat 36 students, and it's a completely flexible space. All the tables fold up and the chairs will all stack. So if we wanted to have a, I don't know, aerobics class in there that talks about, art and movement, we could. Or if we wanted to have, 36 kids sit down and make something, we could. So we're really excited with that space. When we're not using it, we do share with our MassArt students and faculty. Oops, I'm walking us into a wall. And so this is the staircase that takes us up to the upstairs gallery, that former lecture hall and library. And it's about around here when people start to look up, they start to then see the wonderful sculpture. And one of the great things about the opening was that, you can't imagine it until you see it. And then the fun was that there were lots of people actually up in the balcony watching new people come up the stairs and experience the Joanna Vasconcelosch Valkyrie Mumbai sculpture for the first time. And so here you see there are just thousands of different capulana that she's used. And one of the things I talk about in the video is that Elizabeth Mombet Freeman, you know, is quite an amazing person for many reasons, not only for basically finding a lawyer on her own to take her case during a time when few women had rights at all. She wins the case, and after winning the case, she goes to work for her lawyer's family, and she makes a living and saves money and buys a house and has possessions. And she actually even has a will. And one of her most prized possessions is a beaded gold necklace. And so here throughout the piece, you see these metallic beads, and all of these metallic beads are referencing that wonderful necklace. And if I can get this to work, let's see. If you look up here, there is one of the elements. There's a purple element here where my arrow is that has a lot of gold metallic beads and also yellow pom-poms that really signify that necklace. And so throughout, so one of the cool, you know, it took a pandemic for us to figure this out. We never used to have virtual 3D tours. And because MAAM was closed, we decided, let's try anything. We don't really know how to operate a virtual museum. We don't know what's of interest to people during, you know, a pandemic, but why not try and see if people like it? And so somebody brought to my attention this, I guess, technology where if you're selling a house, you can show people a tour of your home. And so this is basically that technology. This technology, instead of showing you my dining room or my, you know, kitchen, I'm showing you my gallery. And in the gallery is this wonderful work of art. You'll see then various circles here. These are all of the texts that you would find in the gallery. And so the orange circles have the text in English, and the yellow circles have the text in Portuguese. We were very lucky that our curatorial fellow is from Brazil and speaks Portuguese. And so we were able for the first time to do bilingual programming for this show. And so if we keep moving over, you'll see that's the art catwalk. That's the glass windows of the office. And let's see if we can just sort of walk over to the stairs.
It's really cool how you can get under it and walk around it.
I wish I was a little bit more agile with this. I'm just trying not to make you all dizzy. So anyway, here we are walking up the stairs to our art catwalk or art overlook. And you can see here, this is really an amazing view. And we're really, really lucky to be able to have this catwalk because you're able to see sculptures from lots of different vantage points. As you're coming up from the first floor to the second floor, you see it as it starts to peak, you know, you start to see it a little bit. You see it on the main floor. And then you see it as you come up to this art viewing balcony. And here we've also created a little reading area. So if you want to learn about African prints or about Joanna's other work, there's an area here, or you can look over the balcony and see the piece here. And so one of the things that Joanna was struck by when she visited the space was that she could see all of the structures. So if you recall in the video, she has shown in lots of museums, and some of those museums are very old, like the Palace of Versailles. She hung that ginormous golden Valkyrie. When they installed that piece, she told me that there were times they were just drilling in blind to the ceiling because they didn't know what was underneath there to see what would hold. That was not the case in this space because we tore off the ceiling. You could see exactly where you could attach all of the points. And so she was very, very excited. And she was also very excited about the viewing balcony because she really wanted the visitors to feel like they were getting attacked in a way by this piece, that it was just peeking out and interacting with you. And she was also very thoughtful because she saw that our museum offices were there. And she said, oh, good, I'm going to make sure that you also can see something really great. So that's the first time I've ever had artwork staring at me when I've been working in the office. And then when you go through, these are our brand new elevators that connect all 3 floors of the building, which we've never ever had before. And then also these murals, as you can see, each elevator bay has a different mural or website reference so that we can always have the MAAM brand in the back of our minds. And so that very quickly is the 3D tour. And all of this you can find on our, if you go to the MAAM website, maam.massart.edu, and you go to the Joanna Vasconcelosch webpage, we've worked really hard to build out that page so that you can see the video, the curator's introduction on your computer with less glitches. You can also see the 3D tour. And if you don't want to manipulate this yourself, you'll see on the screen, the Matterport tour has a little play button here. So if you were to hit that, Matterport would then take you through on an automatic tour. But I noticed that when I was doing the test, that seemed to get a little glitchy as well. So I thought maybe it would be better to manually steer. So we'll see. But anyway, that's the tour. And I will now stop sharing. And leave this computer screen and go back to the other one.
Oh, and you're muted. I just want to give you the heads up before you start talking.
All right, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Let's see. We have a question here. What other art museums did you investigate in planning your museum? Did you have any other references?
So as I mentioned, this has been an idea, a dream in the making for about 10 years. So back in 2008, when I first became a director, before that, I was a curator. And so it's completely different skill set at times. You know, as a curator, you're just charged with coming up with really wonderful ideas and shows and what's interesting or exciting or what have you. And as a director, you know, it's not like they make you a director and you automatically know what to do, or at least I didn't. So what we did was we hired a strategic visioning consultant. We went to the American Alliance of Museums website. The AAM is, you know, the parent institution for all museums. You get accredited from the AAM, and they have resources and whatnot. And one of the pages was consultants. And we wanted to see, you know, who could help us imagine what the space could be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years. And so we hired someone who basically came and did a site visit and talked to us. And she had worked with the Walker Art Center in Minneapolis, and she had worked with Harvard Art Museums, and she was working with RISD and Hammer and all of that. And she basically gave me the roadmap that created what I had to do, which was, you know, build a front door, make better facilities, come up with better educational and community offerings, and finally, a great brand and logo. And so as we were doing this, we also then decided to visit other museums. So the first iteration, when we were doing this, we had hired Machado and Silvetti because that was before the economic downturn, okay? And so when Machado and Silvetti were on board, we did, of course, visit your wonderful PAM, the Provincetown Art Museum here, because they did that, and it's a great space. We also visited Bowdoin because they did that space. But we also, you know, wanted to see what other museums did for back of the house. And so we were able to secure a tour with MoMA in New York and tour the back of the house and see how did they store and what did their workshops look like. And we also, of course, toured the ICA Boston here in town. And we also toured the then very new Museum of Art and Design in New York. And that, because that museum was more of a design museum, if you go into that space, their finishes are amazing. If you walk into the bathrooms, they're all Piazza tiles. You know, they got all these fantastic donations from all of these, you know, places. And so that sort of set the bar very high for us. Like, how could you make spaces feel bespoke, feel special, feel like it was for you? Okay, we couldn't use Piazza tile, but we had a great brand. So this idea of using the MAAM logo over and over again so that we could, you know, decorate with the MAAM logo or decorate with that hover. We did that. We also, we visit, as part of our work, museums in general. So as par for the course, when we go to New York, we check out museums, we would look at and see, oh, what do we like about that code signage? Or what do we like about that stair rail? We have lots of iPhone photos, I think, of just bathrooms and toilets and bathroom partitions and, sinks. So yeah, I mean, it was, as anyone who's ever remodeled a house, this is, times 10, but you can have so much fun with it. And, it was a really great way for our team to explore things together and, decide what we liked, what we didn't like, and figure out how to make a really welcoming space, because we do feel very, very strongly that mass art being, accessible for education, and we are accessible for art. We want to make sure that everyone feels like this is their place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have a question about that, because as we all know, MassArt is just an amazing art school, and I am an alum, so I'm very proud, and that's why we thought of Lisa and the MAAM because of my connection to and my passion for mass art. But during my years there, which was way before the museum. There was that space was really like walking through. We would just walk through that space. I don't even recognize that space anymore, because it was like, I think it was a gym. There might have been.
So do you mind me asking, Julie, when were you at MassArt?
I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, because I knew you were going to ask me. It was around 2005.
Okay, so yes, so basically MassArt, for those of you who don't know, used to have a very, well, at least from the outside, a very beautiful building in the Longwood Hospitals area. In fact, if you go to the Beth Israel Super Salad restaurant, if you go outside, there is this very beautiful facade with Gothic chiseled writing on the wall that says Massachusetts College of Art, and it's got like flowers and trees. It was beautiful. And that was MassArt's building. And this predates me, but from what I understand, Governor Weld made a deal with the college, because we are a state institution, and the hospitals back then. When the hospitals wanted to expand, they figured out, well, let's buy out MassArt and let's relocate MassArt someplace else. And so the building that we are in now, not the Boston Normal School, yes, but the rest of the campus is what used to be Boston State. And my understanding is that Boston State used to be another state school that stopped existing. And so MassArt was moved over to this space and then rehabbed all of it to create ginormous studios, a 9,000 square foot print making studio, a glass pour area, a foundry. Okay, the college has really wonderful facilities. And the college then started moving from the Longwood building, the Super Salad building, starting in 1989, and finished its move to the current location now by 1992, because they had to move over in stages. And then from 1992, it's been there. And I think my predecessor started in 1985-ish, I want to say. So he saw the old building and the new building. So the galleries used to be in another space called North Hall, which looked exactly like South Hall, that square footprint with the Palladian windows. And yes, that space might have been the gym, because we used to be in North Hall, and then we were in South Hall, and South Hall was the lecture hall and library. But MassArt for a long time had a basketball court, it had squash courts, it had all these things that left over from this other school that the art school just turned into art making spaces and studio spaces and temporary funding spaces. Yeah.
It's incredible, the evolution of that school. We are running out of time. I can't believe it's 5:59. There is one question though that I think this is probably something everyone's thinking about, is how did you fund this?
Ha ha ha, that's a very good question, and partially why it took so long. So MassArt, as you probably figured out, it's, we're very proud to be the first publicly funded art school in the nation, the first to grant a degree, but MassArt does not have a history of fundraising, okay? It's not flush with wealthy donors or alumni like Harvard. We don't have the magic Rolodex that you just spin and you just find six-figure gifts on every single card. And so when we decided to do this, part of the reason why we had to change over architects was in the beginning, the project was priced out at, I think, 16 million or something. And that was when things were sort of in a downturn. There wasn't a lot of building going on in Boston at the time, and the economy was bad. And then the economy started picking up, and then the then project went from 16 million to like 22 million. And that project had to be scrapped because the college knew that it could not fundraise for that amount of money. I mean, clearly we'd gone and we'd done some studies as to what we could fund, and that was just too much. And so we then scaled down the plan and decided, okay, the new target was $12 million. And because we did not want to charge a ticket price, we always wanted everything to be free. It had to be a privately fundraised effort. So that means it was, we raised $12.5 million over the course of 9 years through individuals, big and small gifts, as well as family foundations. The MCC came and gave us some capital funds, which was really wonderful. But by and large, it was through private individuals, private philanthropy. And it was a lot of figuring out, who wants to support a new space, who wants to, help a space that will help students be better artists, to allow students see better work, because, I would say close to 90% of our students are on scholarship and they have other jobs and they cannot go to Istanbul to see the biennial or go to Venice or go to New York even. And so what we try to do is bring the world to them in this museum. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate all the effort and the passion and just really creating access when there is no access to things right now. And so we really appreciate that. Joanna's sculpture will be up for how long for
So I think one of the questions, and this will tie into it, was when do we think we'll be open? So the college made a choice that when the pandemic started, that it was going to be very, very safe for our students. So basically shut down. And when we decided to let people come back, the college chose to only allow the MassArt community on campus. There's no public allowed right now. And that was a good decision. There are very few cases of COVID. We test all the time. We all have an app on our phone that tells us if we can come to campus. You need to have a green tag. But I imagine that with the pandemic slowing down, fingers crossed, and people getting vaccinated, that I see come fall, we should be open. And what I would like to do is probably, and what I think I mentioned, is that the majority of our workforce is students. We're training students. And so I have to make sure that by the time we open, we have enough students that we can hire back again, train them. And so my guess is we'll have a soft opening probably internally in September to make sure things are moving along. And then hopefully come middle of October, we'll be open to the public. When we do open to the public, I have a contract with Joanna that the piece has to be up for at least 6 months. So it will be up for a while, and I hope that you can all come visit, and I'd be happy to show you the nooks and crannies and any other secret spaces that we might have. So please come visit.
Oh, I love that. And, I guess the good news to all of this is that you get to have another opening.
Yes, and quite frankly, I don't know what this new normal is going to look like. So it could be that instead of one opening, we were so lucky that we got to open in February. I would have been heartbroken if our opening day was March 22 and everything would have had to been canceled. But I know, but we were very lucky. We opened and we had, I think 3,000 people over the course of 2 days, which was really amazing for us. And so I foresee that when we reopen, who knows, we might still have to social distance, or we might still have to wear masks. So maybe instead of one big opening, it'll be, 6 smaller openings spread out over the course of a month and a half. And maybe the smaller openings allows us to invite, smaller, like, targeted groups. So who knows, maybe there's a Cape group, that comes down on a party bus and you come see the space. And then maybe there's another group that's, our Mission Hill community, or maybe there's another group that's, I don't know, people who like to, sing songs, and we have karaoke night. I don't know. We haven't thought it through, but, the sky's the limit, and we're not embarrassed to try lots of different things. So if you have a good idea, let me know.
I love it. Thank you for this fantastic presentation. Someone just wrote in, thank you to Lisa for her outstanding presentation. I agree. That was
Thank you.
really well done, Lisa. Thank you very much for doing that for us. So thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. And I just want to let you know, we have one last Modern Love lecture. It's called Going Once, and it's with Alice Gim, the CEO of New York City auction house Bid Square. That will be on Thursday, May 6th at 5 p.m. And we will send out information on that tomorrow. But thank you all for joining us. You had everybody kind of hanging there, Lisa. So loving what you were talking about.
Well,
So
thank you very much. And thank you all for being so patient with me as I tried to navigate 2 computer screens.
no, you did a
I hope you have a great weekend.
job. Thanks everyone, and good night.
Good night.